What happens when your girl does things you don't agree with? Does she put on a little more makeup than you prefer? Does she pick outfits that have you questioning why she would even be wearing that? You know your girl is a teenager when she starts to make choices that challenge your own values. Maybe they're her political views or her gender identity preferences or even the value of faith in her life. Well, today I give you 5 ways to handle her views, actions, choices, and preferences that do not align with yours. Hey mama, welcome to Raising Her Confidently. Do you want to have open communication with your teen daughter? Do you find yourself constantly thinking about how to talk to your teen or why your girl is not opening up to you? Do you wake up with confident intentions only to feel confused and frustrated when all you get are one-word answers from your daughter again? Hey, I'm Jeannie. I too was a mom raising young teens. I too felt grieved by the loss of my sweet, talkative little girl. I wanted her to come to me about anything, even if she was scared, and listen to my advice. But I kept thinking, she won't listen to me, and I don't know how to approach her until I found tools to create open communication. In this podcast, you will find how to connect and talk to your teen and create a safe space for her to go to so that you will have that close relationship you dreamed of. Go grab your glass of Merlot and throw off those fuzzy slippers, and let's dig in together. Mama, this is an invitation to you. Join me in the Talk to Your Teen Girl framework. It's a 4-week course that will get you started in creating a space for your teen to feel safe and respond in a way where your teen girl will be heard and understood, like her differing views or things that she's exploring in this season. You are building trust so you get what you want most from your daughter. That is to come to you about anything. I want you to head now to raisingherconfidently.com. Are you not sure if Talk to Your Teen Girl framework is a good fit for you? Then book a free discovery call. Understand what is next for you at raisingherconfidently.com. I remember I grew up in the age of gangster rap. NWA, Public Enemy, Eazy-E, Snoop Dogg. I loved the beats and the rhythms, and all my friends were listening to it too at the time. I really have this problem, and it's no joke. I have this problem, not really paying attention to the lyrics. I knew it was gangster rap and the content they rapped about, but I didn't really listen to the content of what they were saying, really. And then one day I was listening to it on my boombox, and my dad absolutely lost it. He was so upset because of the vulgar words coming out of the speakers, and he couldn't believe I was listening to it. He made me shut it off and forbid me to listen to this type of music. Granted, I was a young teenager, and he was right about being exposed to mature content before I was ready. I, however, at the time, took it as a way for my dad to control me, and I didn't like it. I was angry at him for shutting me off just like that and felt judged for listening to that music because I knew also that he himself used vulgar language too. So I thought it was a little hypocritical for him to forbid me to listen to my gangster rap. Well, maybe hearing this story brings back memories for you, or maybe you're dealing with this exact situation right now with your girl. Maybe it's not gangster rap, but the way she obsesses over her makeup, or even her preference in her gender identification that may press up against your values, your personal choices, and even understanding. Mama, you've raised her a certain way. You tried your best to shape her character and create boundaries that kept her on the right path you envisioned for her. Through generations past, parents have dealt with the tension of choices their teens have made, right? This is nothing new. I know my parents dealt with it. I know I dealt with it. I know my parents' parents dealt with that, and my parents' parents have dealt with the same issue of dealing with the tension of their choices that are not necessarily what you would have chose for yourself. Nowadays, the issues may be different, but the struggles are still the same. So how do we approach or deal or handle and come up with some peace of our own with the external and internal struggles we can personally deal with when it comes to guiding our girl when they are making choices that cross your own. I'm going to give you some 5 ways to handle them, mama. Get your notebook and write them down. Number 1, love them where they're at. Yes, love them where they're at. You go to them. You go to them and love them where they're at. Coming with the attitude of love allows your daughter to feel safe and less judged. Going to your daughter in love, because I know she probably knows that she's making some decisions that you would not necessarily agree with. And I know she knows that, but she doesn't want to hear it from you. What she wants is to know that you love her unconditionally. So love them where they're at. When you're loving them, there's less judgment. She's going to feel less judged by you. And this leads to number 2, understand she is exploring and discovering things on her own. That's a big one, mama, right? Sometimes we see what we see now and think that is their future. But I want you to understand and be confident in understanding that this is the explorative and discovery phase. She, as a teenager, right, trying to break out, be independent. She's trying to think on her own. So she's exploring and discovering and trying to see the influences on the outside of her family and how does that impact her own. She's discovering and exploring. If you haven't noticed that your daughter can be very fickle, right? She sees something, it's like shiny object syndrome. She sees something that's really cool and popular and she's, yes, I want to do that. That's me now. And then you turn around and all of a sudden it's changed. A perfect example is my daughter for a long time loved matcha green. And all of a sudden it's light blue. You know, it's just so crazy how they can switch and change their minds so definitely, right? Because this is exploring and discovering. This is the phase they're exploring, discovering, and also pushing and challenging all the values that she's growing up with, has grown up with, right? She's trying to see and sift and shift where the things that she's learning on the outside fit in with what she already knows, right? And that also comes with gender identification too. That topic, I know it's huge. It's a lot of confusion for people in my generation, understanding like, what are all these pronouns? What are all these pronouns I don't understand? And guess what? This is a great, talking about open communication. This is a great time. This is a great time for you to ask her, what is this all about? And you'll soon understand that maybe she doesn't understand it quite much. She's just following the crowd. But I also want to be clear that understanding that they're in a phase of discovery and exploration does not mean you have to agree with everything they have come into agreement with, right? You are a parent, you have your values, you have the wisdom and experience to back up why you value what you value, right? And if you are a person of faith, you know the truth. But what I'm saying here is how we can handle how our daughters view outside influences and come into agreement with that doesn't mean that we have to also agree with what they're agreeing with, right? Understanding her too, that she's in a phase of exploration and discovery allows you to pick up some things, right? Some topics or some ideas and be able to put that in your back pocket to help guide her through this process of self-exploration and discovery because of the teen stage. So know the difference between crossing values and crossing rules. My third point, know the difference between crossing values and crossing rules. Values will be bumped up against. Even rules too, but there's a difference between how we address them, right? If she's crossing rules, doing drugs, having alcohol, those are things that you need to address now. We don't really give space for her to explore and discover that because that is a boundary that we're setting. It's a rule, right? We don't experiment with drugs. We don't experiment with alcohol. First of all, you're too young to be drinking alcohol, right? Those are things that we need to address. We don't understand that she's exploring and discovering that, although she kind of is, right, with her friends, but that's something that we don't cross. But when it comes to values, the things that she's grown up with, she's going to start questioning, how does the values she's grown up with apply to her life now? And why are these other influences giving me something different, right? So she's bringing it in, kind of like juggling with it, exploring what this means. And it can come out as a definite answer. And we know, mama, as an adult, that it's not a definite answer. It's not obsolete. It changes. It really does. That's why it's called the roller coaster season of parenting. So mama, for you, know the difference between her crossing her values and exploring and just bumping up against it and crossing rules. And number 4, lean in and get curious. Like I was saying, it's like, hey, if you don't understand what is going on, why is she making these choices? Ask her. Ask about the topic. Makeup, for instance, if she's obsessed with makeup and puts a little bit more than what she wants, what you desire or are comfortable with her to put a little bit more, lean in and get curious. You know, my daughter, she sees mama putting makeup every day and she's curious about it. She wants to use it, right? So it was a great opportunity for me to lean in, talk to her about her desire of wanting to put makeup on. Why do you want to put makeup on? What do you love about it? And she'll tell me it brightens her face up. Okay, so you want to brighten your face up, right? It gave me an opportunity to communicate with her and teach her how to appropriately put makeup on that was appropriate for her age. Now, granted, some of the girls would love to go on stage, full stage makeup, and they're great at applying it. And there's nothing wrong with that, mama, right? There's nothing wrong with that. If it makes her feel great, awesome. But this is where you get to understand, why are you putting that much makeup on? Is it to impress other people? Because then that's the wrong reason. But if it's for her to make herself feel better, then why not, right? Then why not? And maybe interject every now and then, you know, what's appropriate or what you would do, you know, how you would advise her to put some makeup on. And maybe she'll just reject it and just say, Mom, you don't know what you're talking about. According to YouTube, this influencer, this is how she puts it on. And at least you understand her world, right? You're communicating with her and you'll never know. Makeup trends change so much that one day she's not wearing any at all. Learn to just get curious about why they're so fascinated about something that you may not have chosen for yourself, and really understand that, right? Lean in and get curious, but also know, going back to the discovery and exploring stage, that most times it's very temporary. It changes, right? And the last way is pray. If you pray over them and for them, right? This is something that you can control for yourself, even if you feel like you can't control them and you feel panicked that you want to control them. And then because of that panic, what happens is that they feel suffocated and they feel like you don't trust them to make decisions on their own, which in fact, they're not quite ready to make all these decisions on their own. But at the same time, we have to show them in love them where they're at, so that they don't feel this tremendous judgment from their parents, right? But also understand that they're in this exploratory stage. And as long as they're not crossing rules that are non-negotiable, allow them to explore. Pray over them. This is something you can control, is pray over them. I believe in the supernatural power of prayer and how we as parents can pray over our kids of things that we cannot control, okay? So there you have it. Love them where you're at. Understand she's exploring and discovering on her own. Know the difference between crossing values. Well, I wouldn't say crossing values, but pushing up against values or challenging her values and crossing the rules. Lean in, get curious. This is a great opportunity for you. Instead of repelling and refusing to understand and shutting it down, this is an opportunity for you to lean in and get curious. Understand their views, right? Because this is a great way you're going to be able to guide them. In my Talk to Your Teen Girl framework, I actually have a section about having those hard conversations like conflict resolution and problem solving, and these tools that equip moms to address things for later, right? As you're getting curious about these choices and decisions they're making, it's not to address them right then and there. It's to get curious and understand, how can I talk to her about this hard topic later? And that's what we do in Talk to Your Teen Girl framework. Is I teach moms how to table those conversations, but exactly what happens when you need to have those conversations. Come with what you're going to say, addressing the one problem. It's there to help guide moms to be confident in having these discussions so their daughters can receive it, but also feel like they're being heard and understood too, without judgment, right? There's this quote that I love. It's called, it's by Mark Gregston. It's truth without judgment pushes the child away, but truth with relationship draws them near. And I find that very applicable to this topic of handling choices and preferences that your girl's exploring and discovering right now that may not come into agreement with your own. So mama, what is it that you're going to do out of the 5 ways? Are you going to love them, choose to love them regardless? Are you going to understand and give you some peace knowing that this is discovery and exploratory? Or are you going to know the difference between whether they're pushing up the values, right? Tell yourself, are they pushing up up against the values, kind of challenging them? Or are they breaking these rules? Lean in and get curious. Maybe it's that, instead of repelling what they're doing and shunning them and making them really feel shameful for having those choices without really understanding. Are you going to lean in to understand? Or maybe it's, I just don't know what to do and I need to get on my knees and pray over my child. What is it for you? Mama, I invite you to come on a discovery call and I can help you figure this out. I can walk alongside you and understand what it is that we need to address and tackle and give you the next step for you. I want you to remain connected with your daughter during these formative years. And I know you want to be connected to your daughter so you can guide them well into adulthood. So reach out to me at raisingherconfidently.com and I'll talk to you soon.
Hey friend, if this podcast inspired you or encouraged you or helped you in any way, I'd love for you to share it. You can screenshot this episode and share it in your stories on social media or text it to a friend who can use the support. It's the best way you can thank me. I want to let other mamas know they are not alone. I'd love to stay connected with you. You can find me on Instagram at Jeannie Baldamero or join my free mom support community at Linktree/Jeannie Baldamero. Until next time, live full of grace, Jeannie.